Hey guys, sorry, I just I got kicked off. So let me give a moment to get all of you guys back. I am so sorry. I can't even read your questions. I need you all to come back. Let's see. Come back, please. Let me give a moment to make sure that all of you guys are back. Who just joined? Can you identify yourself, please? Hey guys, I'm so sorry. It looks like my laptop just shut off. So I'm using my phone, and this is my first time streaming on my phone. Can you guys let me know if you could hear me? Let me know if you could hear me, and let me look at the chat. Oh, hi, Eric. If you remember talking to me next week, I made it to the second. Oh, hi. Thank you. I saw, yes, your message comes in perfectly. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I can't see the questions from the other live stream. If you could please repeat it on here. Hey, David. Hi, David. Okay, shoot your questions right here, and I'll go as quickly as I can. The mobile live is a little bit different from being on my laptop, so I can't take my time in reading the questions. I wanted to know software-related problems asked during phone interview. For software-related problems, second interview, I think I'm going directly how to prep. Okay, first for software-related problem, if you don't have the relevant software experience as Amazon, you need to make sure that you're talking about a software program that's relevant in the same family, right? Especially for operation. What software are you using in the operation that's relevant, even though you don't have the same software programs or application as an Amazon? And the type of questions that they would ask is how do you, basically how familiar you are with those questions, okay? Security consultant interviewed. As a contractor, REIT, are you referring to a contractor? Eric says, I initially spoke to the hiring manager. Now, second interview is with someone I think I'm going to work for directly. How do you prep for that accordingly? Well, depending on how well your first interview goes, the second interview or conversation is usually a follow-up questions, right? Again, prior to going into the next phase of the interview process, I would always want to ask clarified questions from the recruiter to make sure that you're not missing on providing more detail to an area that you haven't in the first interview, okay? Leverage the recruiter to see how you could best prepare yourself for the next round. And again, this is different by position as well as team, okay? Does that answer your question? This is so weird going on mobile. I feel like I'm finding my camera. Okay, let's move to David says, I interviewed last week for a role, but was told that I will not be moving forward, but not provide any reasons as to why and what could I do differently. David, that's an excellent answer. As I mentioned earlier before I got cut off from Wi-Fi and my equipment, if you, excuse me, if you did not get selected by Amazon, first and foremost, it is just Amazon. There's thousands of other positions within Amazon and outside of Amazon, so I don't want you guys to give up hope. Secondly, if you don't get the job that you would hope for, it's not always because you didn't do a good job. It could also be because it is not the right fit for you, Okay? So don't feel that, I just don't want you to feel like you've lost your self-confidence over that. I would think back of the way that you've answered the question, right? I would write out the questions that you could recall and how you tackle around in answering it and what could you have done to make it better. Okay? Cool. Hi, Anlo. Hey, you came back. Hey, hey, Reed. How do I prepare for security consultant? Okay, for the security consultant position, it depends. Are you coding? Are you not coding? It sounds like AWS. Are you interviewing at AWS for the consulting role? For Cool. I'm like just a wild guess, right? Um, for a security consultant, you wanted to make sure that you know everything about obviously the cloud. How do you protect the cloud from having the type of problems of challenges leaking out? If you think about AWS as a whole, again, go to Glassdoor and type AWS security. Just security. You don't have to put application or engineer. See what you find out, and you will be amazed. I did a search recently for one of my clients for a security application engineer in Glassdoor. I know for a fact some of the questions are on there. Okay, and if you have trouble with that, send me a message or leave it in the chat screen. Let me see what I can do to help you dig up for some answer. But know everything about AWS and how the cloud perform and what kind of challenges or issues they have that's relevant to your background. At the end of the day, my friend, is what you can bring on the table with your background. Okay? Don't focus so much on what type of questions. I'm getting a lot of that, what kind of questions are being asked, but focus more on your own skills. At the end, the questions that the interviewer will ask you, it's all out of your resume and your experience. All right? Okay, let's go with one more questions from Amazon Scott. Oh, Amazon Scott mean I'm no longer considered for AWS Audible as well. You know what? To be honest with you, I've never heard of the term Amazon Scott. SCOT. Did the recruiter mention this to you, Geek Tech? Okay. Edwin says, I know who the hiring manager and bar racers are in my interview. How do I prepare myself mentally for the bar racer? Should I save my best story for the hiring manager and the bar racer? No, absolutely not. Don't try to save an answer for each individual. You should be doing the best in every single interview. In order for you to get the job, even if the bar racer says, yes, I'm inclined to hire you, and the manager says, yes, I want this guy or girl, it doesn't matter. Amazon likes to see a thumbs up from the entire loop, okay? There are often times that either the bar racer, the hiring manager, or even your future peers can change the decisions of others, okay? What happens if you and your future peer are not seeing eye to eye and they're not satisfied with your questions? They're not going to incline in hiring you. Even if you are an excellent person that can code really well, software engineering, right? That could pass your design and solve big problems. It could also be a communication challenge that you have with that specific peer, right? So make sure that you use your personal touch and provide your best answer for every single interviewer, which is why I've mentioned in my Amazon leadership principle to put out at least 2 to 3 examples for each and every one of them. When you do that, you have a lot of legal room to play with. Okay, you don't want to use, and you do not want to use the same example for all of the interviewer. Imagine 5 or 6 of them, and generally the recruiter as well, sitting in there in a debrief. You don't want everyone to share the one example that you give them. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Okay, I know you see me pressing here. I am so new to this, guys. Okay, Geek Tech, back to you. If rejected from Amazon, Scott, supply chain optimization tech. Thank you for your clarification. That's fancy. Meaning I'm no longer considered for AWS Audible role as well. No, absolutely not. Also, the bar you would think should be the same across all of Amazon, right? All of any company, but that's not the case. Sometimes the bar is a little bit different, a little bit higher based on the products that they're trying to execute or the services, right? Just because you don't make it for that specific role does not mean that you can't interview for a different role. Now, if it has to do with coding, for example, right? If you can't code for project number A, then most likely you can't code for project B and C. That's completely different. Generally, when you are declined for a position, Amazon will reach back out to you anywhere between 6 months to a year. If it's coding, then they would want to see what have you done, how did you grow from your technical experience within the 1 year gap. Okay, so it's all depending on feedback and what area that you needed to work on a little bit more. Okay, Geek Tech, I hope that answers your question. Hi, Holly. How do you prepare for coding interview? Any suggestion? I'm not an engineer. As you all know, I'm a recruiter, executive recruiter, and a career coach. And this is how I coach my candidates on coding interview. First, you need to know you're at any level. It doesn't matter if you're a fresh grad from college to a senior engineer. You need to know your data structure, your algorithm in solving problems, okay? You need to know your object-oriented design, and your object-oriented analysis really well. There will be design questions and coding questions. Generally, there's at least 2 coding questions and 1, if not 2, design questions. Okay, and how you prepare with that is to look on exercise. Again, go to Glassdoor or even Quora, right? Quora, if you guys haven't heard of Quora before, you don't have to be an engineer to check out Quora. If you put a questions on Quora, for example, coding questions for Amazon, right? And it will come up from a news feed. And the people who are answering it are Amazon engineers. So there's a lot of employee who uses Quora to help others to get into the corporation. Okay, so check out Quora, Quora.com, and I'll leave that in the description later on. Okay, and check out Glassdoor to see what type of information you can have. Also, I follow another content creator. He's called the Tech Lead. It's Tech Lead on YouTube, and he has a course to teach you the type of coding questions for big companies, right? In general, if you can solve a problem in coding the language that you use best, okay? Let me give you an example. If you are great in Python, don't try to code in C++, okay? Code in your best language. If the job calls for Java and you only know Python and very little on Java, make sure you communicate with the interviewer and let them know, okay? And if you don't let the interviewer know, they may think that you don't know Java at all, okay? So make sure your communication is very open and clear with the interviewer. Wow, I have a lot of STE in the house. Whoop, whoop. Cool. Okay, let's go with the position. I'm applying for STE, no levels specified, but in the description they're asking for 3+ years of experience. But yes, that would be most likely an STE 1. The one thing that I wanted to coach you guys is don't pay attention to the level, like STE 1, 2, 3, or even if you're interviewing for operation manager position, right? The interviewer is paying attention to how well you do during the interview or the onsite. If, for example, 3+ years is really a junior engineer, right? 2+ years is generally college grad. 3+ year is, that means you have some experience, right? Let's just say that you knocked their socks off and you were coding so fast, it was perfect. You didn't, of course, you have to test your code. I'm pretty sure you engineers know that, right? When you're done coding, test your code and look for bugs. And if you do that to impress the interviewer and you're able to solve the problems, then you may be an SDE 3. A 3 or 4, right? And not just SDE 1 and 2, right? So if you have a really strong experience, and I have seen this in my career before, where engineers only have 4 or 5 years experience and they're coming in as an SDE 3 because they are excel in the coding fundamentals and their data algorithm, the binary trees, and all of the way how they solve the problems. And I can't share what kind of problems on the World Wide Web, but you got the idea, okay? Don't focus on the level, focus on solving the problem and practice coding. This is a L4 role, non-tech. Well, thank you, Eric. It's for a non-tech position. For L4 position, generally means that you're fairly senior, so you have the experience. So the type of questions that you want to be prepared for is you want to be able to show Amazon that you have done it, but done it with your story that's relevant to Amazon, the environment, okay? So make sure that you are very in tune with the type of environment and what you can bring on the table. One of the thing, I can't remember whom, one of you guys mentioned earlier that you have actually answered the leadership principle questions, the commonly asked questions. Please, guys, you have to do that. When you, even as an engineer, even you don't have to be using my STAR methods for non-tech behavioral questions, especially for even engineering coding. It really helps you to identify what problems you're trying to solve in order to solve the problem. So think about the STAR method, tech or non-tech, as you're trying to create your story, okay? Come back to me and tell me you're stuck after you have done that, okay? Because the STAR template is just pretty self-explanatory. You need to tell me what your situation is. Basically, what's the content you're talking about? And then you need to ask yourself, what problem is it in the story that you're trying to tell? Okay, well, now that you have your story, how are you going to solve it and what is the result? Okay, and if you, and some of you, I've read your messages on LinkedIn that you haven't, what happens if you have great story but don't have an ROI? If you don't have an ROI, then your story must be pretty good, okay? There will come a time where the interviewer will be impressed if you don't have the end result, but it's got to be something really big. It may be like a reorg that you're trying to convince a group of people to take your idea. It didn't work because what have you done, right? At the end of the day, the how is very important. How do you persuade? How do you think big? How do you dive deep? And that's all Amazon languages, okay? They want to see what you're able to do, what you're capable of, all right? Does that answer your question, Eric? Hey, Holly, I'm not sure if I missed. I am preparing for a 45-minute junior. Oh, I didn't even see your questions. Hey, Mehdi. I am preparing for a 45-minute junior finance analyst role with business leaders. I'd like to know what to expect. For junior position, first let me say that I have not worked on any non-tech role outside of operation and fulfillment within Amazon. But just like any recruiter that would coach you, I would pay attention to like the data that you use, right? How are you with data and matrix? Because it is finance at the end of the day, right? What type of software do you use? What type of information do you present to your customers? Who are your customers? Think about what type of problems have you solved. If this is a junior position, so I'm not asking you to save the world, but more so, what type of things have you done for the customers and how do you do it? Think about a problem that you went above and beyond for your customers. And how do you leverage other people for their buy-in? Reed says, is virtual on-site interview better or on-site? Well, my friend, this day, right now, there is no such thing as physical on-site. Everything is virtual. Virtual on-site meaning video interviewed. Well, it really depends. It's kind of like a catch-22. Some people get really tense up and timid when they're showing up to an on-site interview. It is a little bit intimidating, right? And some people prefer a virtual interview like this where, you only have to care about how you look up here and not down here. You're not shaking their hands. So it's all about personality, right? I mean, for me, I'm personable. I prefer to go in the office to know the environment. And I feel like it's a better way to build relationships physically. So I think it's a case-to-case basis. Okay. Let's go with Yuki. Hey, Yuki. Hi, Holly. I will have a second phone screen with Amazon Data Scientist L5. I'm curious what to expect for LP questions. Well, for data scientists, some of the common questions is, depending on the project, right? It could be data modeling if your project or the scope calls for that. I will take a look at the job descriptions and look at the responsibility, the basic and also the preferred qualification, because that's exactly what you will be doing, okay? Again, the interviewer are not gonna ask you a question that isn't on your resume for the most part, okay? If you say that you are a data scientist and you build ABC product, the interviewer is gonna ask you how you do it, what type of coding have you done, what is the biggest problem you have solved as a data scientist? And that's really like the number one questions. Give me the biggest problem you solve. Okay? Cool. Let's take a look at next questions. I'm interviewing for, Ramneshwar says, hey, I'm interviewing for a cloud internship and I'm still an undergrad. Any tips? If you're an undergrad, first you should just be yourself, have fun, take everything that you've learned in the academia spectrum to relate to, again, the job descriptions. They're not looking for you to really solve the problem. They're looking to kind of hold your hand as you're solving problems. You could be tech or non-tech, by the way, okay? So you just have to make sure that you're very hungry and you're eager to learn. When you're still in school, or even when school, intern, or new grad, they're looking for aptitude more than just someone with experience, okay? Hey, Bob. Two HR guy did contact me for a senior product tech position, and another for applied science manager. Was told that the applied science is off the desk now. I've not heard back from the senior product guy. If you have not heard back from them, most likely the position, sorry, I can't talk. The position might be filled internally. I would say now that you have the contact information, and if Amazon is a company that you're interested in, keep in touch with the recruiter. I would say reach out to those individuals at least once a month to express your interest, and see if there's other position that will be a fit, not necessarily that team. Okay, I mentioned this earlier that I do provide a weekly coaching. I can't do it on here because I don't have the bandwidth, and I want to answer all of your questions to show you how to build a relationship and network and reaching out to the hiring manager or team directly off of LinkedIn. Okay, and if you guys are interested on that, just reach out to me. I know that a lot of you have connected to me already. There's a link in the description, and I can talk to you more about my weekly coaching. Okay, let's carry on because this time is for you guys, and I want to make sure that I'm answering more questions. You're welcome, Bob. Thanks, Eric. Yes, embrace your nervousness. I get nervous every time I come in live, but you guys have calmed my nerve down. This is Hemantha. I have my first TPM is Technical Program Manager or Product Manager. Phone interviewed for, sounds like Alexa. Sorry guys, my chat screen, I had to use my finger for this. Where are you? I have my first TPM with Alexa. How do I prepare for myself? So it sounded like you have, you come from a consumer electronic or devices background, correct, Hermatha? If you do, if you're interviewing for any like devices, they wanted to hear your experience, obviously, with consumer electronic experience, right? So again, when you're providing your example, you have to think about what you've done with the product. The product is Alexa, meaning you need to have similar, no, I have not, but for technical project background. Okay, then you have to think of an example of your experience that is as relevant to Alexa as possible. Okay, like what are some of the technical projects that you've done that can actually scale, right? What are some of the problems that you solve that are technical related? And because the TPM position, one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen from my client is they mention a lot about, you know, when I was a project manager, project manager, don't say that. When you're interviewing for Amazon, and I can only speak for Amazon, project management is here. This is a level, right? And then you have program manager, and then you have TPM, and that's the role that you're interviewing for. So when you're answering your question, you want to use the word, you know, when I am managing or program management for this technical project. Okay, so make sure you're using the right terminology and talk on the technical terminology. Okay, without knowing much about your background and looking at your resume, I can't provide more answer for you, given the fact that I don't know anything about your background, but you want it to stay relevant. Yes, you got this. Okay, I see more questions. Oh, there's another Holly on it. Hey! I am looping for sourcing role mid-level. Any information you can share is wonderful. Hey, Holly here. I've actually recently did a collaboration with Hired.com. I'm pretty sure you know what that is as a recruiter. So there will be questions around Boolean searches, okay, for any sourcing role, especially mid-level. So I will say know your Boolean strength really well on LinkedIn at the bare minimum, if not LinkedIn and YouTube, right? How do you do your search string for the position that they interview you for, tech or non-tech? Okay, so play around with those Boolean strengths. Also the number of hires you made, how you built relationship with your recruiter or your recruiting coordinator or hiring managers, right? All of those questions will be asked. At the end of the day, Amazon wants to know where you're at as far as your sourcing capability. So a lot of the question will be around how you find passive candidates and what is your process. Okay? Let me know if that answers your question. Okay, top questions. David says, would you recommend any professional resume writing, rewriting services to increase potential for getting interview? If so, which ones? Well, David, in my Career Accelerator Masterclass and also my weekly coaching, I do talk about that. I don't want to use this session to talk about my business, but it does cover defining your vision, who you are, helping you brand. Branding meaning how do you create a resume that helps you stand out along with your LinkedIn profile. I also talk about job search, live job search, and walking you through with the position that you are qualified for. And obviously, I like to think that my bar is really high as a hiring manager. And my goal is if you can pass your interview with me, I'm very confident that you can pass an interview at like an Amazon. Knock on wood, so far my ROI for the professional who are in my course are 100%. They get hired with Amazon and some of them with startup pre-IPO of their choice. Okay, I do offer, I don't write your resume, but I will give you tips and tell you exactly what to do. One of the things about resume writing is, well, individual that writes your resume that doesn't have your background can struggle, right? They could give you a nice platform. They could do a lot of the spell check for you that looks really sharp, but at the end of the day, the difference between that and working with like a career coach, I mean, nothing to them. That works for them is fine. But especially when you are a professional with a lot of experience, it's been handled a little differently, right? You really need to understand someone's background in order to tell them what verbiage to use. How do you make your objective stand out, for example? And how do you turn your achievement to make it pop, right? So a resume writer doesn't necessarily do that, okay? So that's my branding part of my program. But if you're interested in a review on your resume and LinkedIn profile, that's coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm doing it live just like this. I'm sorry, guys, I'm having a really hard time struggling with a software that I'm using so that I can share my screen with you. But for today, it's more important for me to answer all of your questions, okay? Any other question? Hannah says, Holly, why in this time coronavirus they are interviewing? Well, because Amazon is hot. I mean, if you think about, if you guys watch my video on video interview strategies and tips during coronavirus, I talked a lot about the industry that are still hot. That's a good thing for you guys, right? If you're looking for work, the companies that's doing really well are retail, right? Retail meaning like the Whole Food, Amazon.com, people are ordering like diapers and toilet paper and all that stuff. Costco, right? Gaming, people are staying home. A lot of them playing game, hence why my Wi-Fi is really slow living in the city, right? Another area is healthcare, right? Think about the healthcare company. So those are the three industries that are constantly hiring, specifically Amazon. I know you guys know this if you're searching for a job. If you go to LinkedIn, you put any position, you'll see Amazon all the way down and literally filling 10 pages. That's because they are trying to open more position to help them scale and to create jobs for Americans or international. Okay? It's a good thing for you guys. Okay, did I miss anyone else's question? Is there anything that I've missed? Okay, if there are no more questions, I will let you guys go. Oh, sorry, Laura. It's good to connect with some of those recruiters on LinkedIn, if I may ask. Thanks. Yes, I will follow up with you on that, Bob. Laura, you said I missed your questions. Let me find it. Let me find you in my chat screen. Let's see, Laura. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, sorry, Laura. My husband has an interview for a support engineer role. Do you know how he should prepare for this technical interview? I talked a little bit about phone interview earlier for a couple different examples. Guys, they're all the same, right? You need to make sure that on a phone interview, they need to make sure that you have the foundation to go to an on-site, which is if it's technical, do you have the technical experience, right? Meaning what type, tell me about your environment, all right? I would definitely ask that question. Tell me about your technical environment as a support engineer. Okay, tell me about a problem that you've solved. What is the most complex problem that you've solved as a support engineer, as an engineer in general, as a product manager, as an area manager, right? So those are some of the really big questions over the phone. They like to do that by asking you one question to sit back and see how you answer it. Communication is really key as well, being able to articulate your answer. Okay, I'm glad that helps. Eric, thank you for being my supporter on here. For all of you guys who are really nervous for your Amazon job interview, don't be. All of us are in the same shape and form one way or another, okay? And 3 great tips to nail an area manager virtual interview. Is there a way that I can Venmo you for some lunch, coffee, a time? Oh, that's really nice, Eric. If you guys wanted to support me, I have a Patreon page. I also have, no, I have a Patreon page. I actually didn't think about making profit out of this by you just being here and supporting me. It's good for me. I'm able to answer questions and help. Thank you so much, by the way. A lot of you have reached out to me via LinkedIn. Overnight, I feel like I'm an Amazon career coach and not an executive career coach. I'm catering my business and what I do to make sure that I am actually delivering to the audience, because I do care that you guys are getting the right job with the company of your choice, okay? And if you have any other questions for me, leave it in the link below. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the bell notification on my next live, hoping to do this every single week. Bye guys, have a good one.